you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the Our Latest Things That Makes Official. Welcome to 16 years, 2,500 episodes of the Chris Voss Show. And Goodreads just named us the top 53rd podcast, top 100 podcast in management. For so there we're getting awards, eh? We haven't gotten awards before, but anyway, it's just kind of fun. Today we had an amazing young man on the show we're going to be talking to, but in the meantime, I need to guilt and shame you to refer your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok, Gideon, all those crazy places on the internet.
Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind.
He's the author of 9 different books, at least. There's a few different variations there, I think, with translations, but I believe it's 9, if I recall rightly. We're going to get into it with him and find out more about his works and what he's up to, how he's doing it. The first book we'll be talking about today is called Mary Had a Little Lamb, out November 25th, 2022, by Adrian M. Hurtado. We're going to get into it with him, his books, and all that good stuff there. Adrian was born in Berkeley, California, and raised in the East Bay area. He is a former teacher and principal, and has served more than 25 years in schools in Orange County, LA County, and Santa Barbara County, California. He also enjoys working with students and finding ways to make learning interesting and fun. And now he seeks to carry on that delight through books that students can enjoy and their parents can enjoy reading to them and with them. He also served in the Marine Corps and the Air Force Reserve, retiring at the rank of major. Him and his wife, Jean, a former kindergarten teacher, his biggest encourager, has retired to their little beach town of Cayucos, California. Cayucos, where he is actively involved in community service. Where's that located? I grew up in California. So
it's 20 miles north of San Luis Obispo. If you know where Morro Bay, California is.
Oh, okay.
It's right just north of Morro Bay.
See, I'm a SoCal kid, so. But good stuff there, Adrian. Welcome to the show. Give us your .coms. How can people find out more about you?
Thank you. I'm getting my website put up pretty soon. It's not ready yet, but I will have a website fairly soon. As you said, I am a former educator. I got into education after working in business for a while and didn't like business because it was too cutthroat. And I thought I want to do something more productive. So I got into education, working with kids. Started off as an elementary school teacher for some 20 years, and then finally got into administration and became a middle school principal. And that's the position I was in when I retired.
Well, that's very nice. Teachers are the backbone of our society, the backbone of our kids. They have such influence on shaping children. I think all of us as children remember the best teachers we had, the people who really touched our hearts and minds and inspired us to be better and learn more and enjoy learning, for that matter.
I think that's true. And thanks to Facebook, I'm able to keep in touch with quite a few of my students who many are in their 40s and older now. But I do still keep in touch with them. And it's a joy to be able to know what they're doing in their lives now.
That is awesome. And full disclosure, my mom's a teacher. She was a teacher for 20 years, 25 years. And so is my sister. So I am kind of impartial and imbalanced when it comes to celebrating teachers and education. So give us a 30,000 overview of what's inside this book. Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Well, Mary Had a Little Lamb is the story of Jesus. It's a poem. It's written in poetic form from his birth to his ascension. And basically the reason I wrote it was, as I mentioned, I was an elementary school teacher, and I was a fifth grade teacher back in the 80s. And back then we could still celebrate Christmas in the classroom. And I had all these things up on the board for Christmas, and I remember asking my students whose birthday we celebrated at Christmas, and quite a few of them responded Santa Claus, and that threw me for a loop. And so I went home that night, and I actually sat down and wrote that poem that night.
Wow.
And I came back the next day, and I read it to my kids, and I explained to them whose birthday we celebrated. And it sat on my computer for many years until I finally, it's not the first book I published, but it's the first book I wrote.
Wow. Now, is it a poem or is it like a fictional historical fiction book?
Well, it's written in poetic form, but it follows the Bible, as I said, from his birth to his ascension.
Okay. Because, you can kind of rely on that, their Bible to tell you some of the historical aspects of it. But do you find you needed to put it in a format that kind of kids can enjoy or kids can understand? Doesn't have those big scientific words sort of thing.
Yeah, I thought about writing it just as a brief story, but I thought the Bible already does that. So I took certain passages, but the timeline is what was important to me. So I took certain passages from the Bible in the life of Christ, and I put them into a poem, and then that's the way I presented it. If I remember correctly, it's only about 36 stanzas.
Oh, wow. Okay. So easy to read, kids.
Yes.
Kids, they're not, you get those words too big in those science manuals. I still can't understand half the thing. Half them science manuals. I can barely read Dr. Seuss, so I'm at that level.
Well, I originally self-published the book, and I had quite a few copies made, and I gave some to friends, and actually I had people that bought some. But I've had several families tell me that that's become their Christmas reading every year when the family's together.
Wasn't that nice? Like a tradition.
Yes, I love it.
I mean, that's the great thing about inspiring the world, uplifting the world, making the world better, sharing joy and teaching other people. Now, tell us about some of the other books you read. Did I get the number right? Wasn't it 9, I believe?
It's 9, including 2 that are in Spanish. I have 2 children's books, Acrobat and Toad's Tools. Acrobat was actually the first book I published. And I wrote that one after I retired. I was getting bored doing nothing. So I thought, well, I've always loved writing. When I was in school, I'd won several writing contests in school. In junior high, I'd had certain writings published in local newspapers and things like that. And I always enjoyed it. So I thought, well, I'm going to sit down and write a children's book. So I wrote the book Acrobat, which is about a bat that wants to participate in the annual Owlympics. They were named after Wise Owl, who put the games together. And so they call them the Owlympics. But because bats are nocturnal and the games are held during the day, he has to come up with a way to be able to be out in the sunlight for a period of time in order to be able to compete. And so the book goes through how he does this and the process that he puts himself through in order to be able to stay out in the sun for at least an hour so that he can compete in the Olympics, and then what goes on through that. But it's a very positive book, and it's a family-oriented book with his parents actually finding out. I don't want to tell you too much, but they found out what he was doing, and they didn't tell him, and they show up at the meet, and he doesn't know it. But that turns out to be the greatest thing that happens for him, is that his parents were there to watch him.
Yeah, it's always good to have your parents involved and stuff. My parents never showed up to my games. That, or if they did, they cheered for the other players. They were like, yeah, beat him. Beat that kid. Beat his team. They cheer for the other team.
Well, I know the feeling. My dad worked a lot. He had 4 kids and my mom to feed, and he didn't. He worked a lot of overtime, so he didn't get to make a lot of my games. I played baseball when I was a kid, and he only made maybe 1 or 2 games the entire time. But whenever he did, I was always glad that he was there. Oh
yeah, that's always good. Yeah, the as long as they don't troll you from the bleachers like my parents did. Right. They were like, "You suck. Swing harder." That sort of thing. I was like, oh, I need better parents. Anyway, I'm just making stuff up, folks. Don't worry about my parents. Anyway, what are some of the other books we want to profile here today?
Well, the other children's book that I wrote is called Toad's Tools. It's like Toadstools, but instead it's Toad's Tools.
I like the spin there.
He inherits his dad's tool bag. His dad has passed away. And again, this relates to my dad. My dad was a very hands-on person, liked to help other people do things. He was very good at that. Not like me at all. I'm very different in that way. I'm not really good with my hands and with tools, but my dad was very good with it. And so he has passed away, and he leaves his tools to Toad. And he always told his son Toad that nothing felt as good as helping others. And he always went around the forest doing odd jobs for others. And now Toad has carried on that part of his father in doing that same thing and going out and helping others with things that they need done. Yeah. And he has that same mantra of always saying nothing feels as good as helping others.
That's true. That is true, isn't it, though?
Yep. I've always enjoyed that.
And that's a great lesson to teach kids.
Well, as I said, I'm not really good with tools and stuff, but I'm very good with other things. I am very active in my community. I do a lot that doesn't require me to pick up a tool, which is good.
Yeah.
Those two books, Acrobat and Toad's Tools, have currently been released in Spanish. I did the translation myself because I'm of Hispanic background, but just to be on the safe side, my next door neighbor works at the local junior college, and I had him put me in touch with someone from the Spanish department, and I had him proof all my writing, and I've made sure that he got credit in the book because he did an outstanding job of proofing it. My Spanish is very, very formal. I wanted something more colloquial, which he provided for me. And I'm very happy with the outcome. And as I said, both books have currently been released in Spanish.
Oh, well, that's awesome, Sauce.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the other books.
Well, I have 4 other books that are poems. They're called The Patrol, The Dawn, Inside Me, and The Tennis Jock. And they're all stages of my life. And I did them in poetic form. I actually wrote those for various English classes that I took in college at different times. And then I was going to submit them as one book and call it The Poetic Stages of My Life. But when I presented it to my rep, he suggested that I put them out separately. The patrol has to do with a group of men that are called on to do a patrol in the middle of the night. They're called, originally starting off as the Night Patrol. And that's based on stories. I'm a Vietnam veteran. As you mentioned earlier, I was in the Marines for 6 years, spent 25 years in the Air Force Reserves after that. But my time in the Marines, I did a tour in Vietnam. And we always heard stories about units that went out, patrols that went out and didn't come back or came back disheveled. And so I sat down and wrote a poem about it for a college class. And I remember the teacher of that class, the professor, told me that she was dating a colonel out at Camp Pendleton. I was living in Orange County at the time. And she wanted to present it to him. And she told me that he sent it off to Stars and Stripes periodical to have it published. I don't know if it ever did or not because I never saw it. But that's how much she enjoyed it. Later on, I got into playing tennis. I never was as good as I'd like to be. But I had a lot of fun doing it. I would show up at tennis courts and challenge people. If I couldn't find one of my friends to play, most of my friends are golfers, not tennis players. And so I would just show up at tennis courts. And the Tennis Jock is just a parody of my life playing tennis. He's kind of a klutz on the tennis court. I don't think I was too much of a klutz, but I was never as proficient as I'd like to be, but I just enjoyed playing the game. And then The Dawn was for another class that I wrote. We were to write something that we really enjoyed. And to me, living life as long as I have, I don't think I mentioned to you, I'm currently 77. I'll be 78 next month.
There you go. Congratulations.
I enjoy the dawn. Every day waking up to a new dawn is very enjoyable to me. And so I wrote this poem about the dawn because that was something that I really enjoy every single day. And then the last book I wrote was just for a class that I went to a seminar in my school district, the last school district that I worked in. And at that seminar, they asked us to write a poem and title it Inside Me. And so that just goes through my entire life of parts of me that were good, parts of me that were bad. For every stanza that starts off with something in my life that was bad, I come back with something that was good, that offsets the bad. And so those 4 poems together, as I said, I was originally going to call them The Poetic Stages of My Life, but my rep suggested I publish them separately, so I did.
Sometimes separately is better, one more than the other and all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah.
So, and these are all children's books that are targeted towards children, inspiring them, helping them learn, giving parents something to read to their kids. Why is that important to be able to spend intimate time, reading to quality time, as it were, reading to your children and making that a part of your interaction with them?
Well, I always loved learning. I always loved reading as a child. I always had a book in my hand, no matter where I went. And I do remember, I did mention that my dad worked a lot, but my mom would sit down with us. And sometimes she'd read with us. Sometimes she'd just play board games with us. But she spent a lot of time with us. And I thought that was really important in growing up, to be able to have that connection with my parents. I don't blame my dad for having to work as hard as he did, because he was the breadwinner, and my mom didn't work outside the home. I did, when I was young, eventually go out and get a paper route to help so that my dad could spend some more time at home. But that didn't offset a lot. But I just enjoyed the time that I did spend with my parents. And I think it's really important that children and parents have a bond that's, not just parent and child, but friends to a certain point. And I mean that not friends that you let them get away with something like you let some of your friends do, because you do have to have a certain amount of order in the household. But you don't have to, I always told my students, whether they did something right or wrong, there were always consequences. I said, and consequence does not mean something bad. It could mean something good. It just means the outcome or the result of what you're doing. And so I would always ask them, are you willing to accept the consequences of what you're about to do? And that
kind
was
of
just
some self-accountability. Kind of some self-accountability there, right?
Exactly. I wanted them to take control of their own lives.
Well, that's important, because, self-accountability teaches you to grow, teaches you to learn, and everything else. And you become a better person when you take self-accountability for something. Yeah. So when did you first know that you were good at writing and that you had this sort of skill set? What was the first light bulb that maybe went on?
Well, when I was in 5th grade, I wrote a poem about being a good student. And my teacher liked it so much, she called the principal in, and he read it. And he asked me if I would be okay with them submitting it to the local newspaper, which was at that time was called the Richmond Independent. I grew up in Richmond, California. And it was submitted to the newspaper, and it was posted in the newspaper. And that was the first time I ever wrote anything like that and had it published. And then in junior high, as I said, I won a writing contest, and I won another one in high school. And so I just always enjoyed writing. And I think it was because I read so much. I loved the things that I read, that it led me to wanting to write. And I think that was what I want to say. I can't think of the word I want to use right there. Isn't that funny? All these words I use, and I can't think of the one.
It happens to the best of us. Yeah. And so you've written ever since, and I imagine you wrote a lot of reports and different things, being, a principal and a teacher and stuff like that. So
and a military officer. I had to write reports there as well. So yes, I did a lot of writing on that, from that respect.
It's good practice.
Yes.
It's good practice. No, I think books are so important. They have some of these kids nowadays, they have these, they have all the electronics and the social media that they're exposed to and all that stuff. And reading books is better, and I think grows your brain better than just watching videos mindlessly, mind-numbing videos. I don't know. That's my opinion. Because it teaches you to create your own world of imagination and your own world of thinking about things and having a vision about things, instead of just sitting there drooling down the side of your mouth going, what's going on? Like I do when I watch TikTok videos and doom scroll.
And that was something I was going to say. That's one of the reasons I loved reading so much when I was a kid, because it opened up my imagination to things.
Yeah.
I could put myself in place of the character. And, okay, this is me doing this, not the person in the book that I'm reading about. Yeah. And so it really is an avenue to do things like that.
It kind of personalizes it, if you will.
It does.
Yeah. So, anything more you want to tease out to us or talk to us about some of these books that you've written? And are any of these like in a series at all? Is there a continuum of any of them?
Not yet. As I said, though, the 4 books that I put out that were going to be the poetic stages of my life, they follow in order. The Patrol being first, of course, followed by the Tennis Jock, followed by the Dawn, and then Inside Me. I mean, if you read them in that order, that's the way I wrote them in my life. So those are different aspects of my life. But I have other books on my computer, but I'm going to the Miami Book Fair this month. I'll be there on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd of November. And I'm hoping to pick up a traditional publisher. And if that happens, then I'll start putting out some of my other books.
Well, hopefully you do, and hopefully it works out. We're rooting for you.
I hope so. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. So anything further you want to pitch out to us as we go?
Just want to thank my wife for always being there to encourage me with my writing. She knows how much I love it, and she's always been there to back me. And as I said, I want to thank my parents for being so supportive when I was growing up. They're both gone now, but my 3 sisters, they're also very supportive, and I want to thank them as well. And all my friends out there that have my books that let me know how much their children or grandchildren are enjoying them. That always makes me really feel good when I hear that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, totally. So give people a final pitch out as we go out on how they can order up your books and find out more about you.
Well, all my books are currently available on Amazon. I think they're on other book sites as well. I'm not sure about Barnes & Noble, but I know for sure they're on Amazon. And it's under Adrian M. Hurtado. And I've always used my middle initial to distinguish from my dad. He was Adrian A. Hurtado.
Oh.
And so I have always used my middle initial. And actually that helps a lot because I didn't realize how many Adrian Hurtados there are until I just typed in my name without the M.
Oh, wow. So there's a lot of them, huh?
They come up.
Well, there
Surprised
you
the heck
go.
out of me.
You got to make yourself unique. Well,
Yep.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. It's been fun to have you, and you're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate that, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Order up his book, Mary Had a Little Lamb, that we let off with today, and all of his other books you can find under Amazon and all that good stuff. Thanks, mods, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss1 on the TikTokity and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time. And that should have us